Hello, and welcome to Monumental, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries, and big thinkers making monumental change. Here's your host, Evan Holiday.
Welcome to Monumental. I'm your host, Evan Holiday, and today on the show, we have on Chris Nowicki. Chris, how you doing, man?
Hey, Evan, I'm really good. How you doing today?
Great. So
Awesome.
Chris and I go back a little bit. He's a commercial broker in Tampa, and we've been looking at a few deals down there, and we've just kept in touch. And I was like, man, we got to get Chris on the show. He's really just crushing it in real estate, crushing it on Instagram. So I'm really glad to have you on the show today, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into kind of before real estate and kind of a little bit of your journey.
Yeah. So I got my start working for a Fortune 500 company. It's called Ecolab, more specifically Nalco. They're in industrial water treatment. So I was in consulting and sales for them. So basically my big customers were manufacturing facilities, food and beverage plants. When I was in Illinois, I lived there for about 3 years. Del Monte, Nestle, James Hardie, a lot of those were some of my big customers. And then down here, James Hardie again, I was one of the few people in the company who knew as much as I did about James Hardie. So I did a lot of consulting with them. Publix, they have a massive distribution facility out in Lakeland, Yuengling, Pepsi. So what I did was basically, there's a lot of processed water, cooling water, water they use for steam in those facilities. So I worked by consulting with them on their processes, helped to optimize, save them money, and then also provided services, equipment, and chemicals for their water to help them use their water more efficiently, less waste, lower carbon footprint, all that good stuff. So, and then as far as real estate goes, you want me to get into that?
Yeah.
So my wife and I, we never really trusted the whole 401k or anything like that with the job, and still don't for that matter. And so our plan was we would buy one house a year every year for the next 30 years. And so we figured that way in 30 years, when we're ready to retire, our income actually goes up every year in our retirement, because then you got another 30-year mortgage getting paid off, got a house coming free and clear every single year. So
yeah,
that was the plan. That's how I got into real estate. And then someone convinced me.
How'd you first hear about that and come up with that plan?
Funny, actually, I saw an interview on Fox News in the morning or something. They were interviewing Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki. They had done that book called Midas Touch, and they were going on the book tour for that. And so I originally thought the Midas Touch, man, that's going to teach me how to make a whole bunch of money in my job, help me climb the corporate ladder, right?
Yeah.
I had no clue. I just saw a part of the interview. And so that kind of went out of my mind for a little while. And I remember I read it and I was like, this is when I thought at all. This is all about entrepreneurship, building business, all that sort of stuff. And then obviously Robert talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad in the book quite a bit. And so I kind of put that out of my mind for a little while. I wasn't sure entrepreneurship was the way I wanted to go. And then I was searching the clearance rack at Staples one day. They just got a whole bunch of paperback books, and I saw Rich Dad, Poor Dad there, and picked that up, read it, and I mean, the rest is history. I knew that was the direction I wanted to go.
Wait, you got Rich Dad, Poor Dad on the clearance rack?
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
Sometimes you find the biggest gems, just in a pile of dirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is exactly what that is. That's amazing. I've never heard someone's story like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just read it, had my, I think she was still my girlfriend at the time. No, my fiance. She was my fiance, and had her read it, and then we just moved forward from there.
That's awesome. So what was the conversation like? Because I've heard some of our listeners ask questions along the lines of as couples, and Jeanette and I talk about this a lot too, is it's so important to make decisions as a couple. But also you have to make sure that the other person kind of has some of the background of where you're coming from when you're making
Yeah.
these decisions. So I think sharing the book with your fiance is a huge step. But how did you broach that, and how, like, were you guys already talking about it, or how did you get her to get on board with it as well?
Yeah, no, I was actually really, really lucky. Her and I both, we were really lucky that we didn't know enough to have these sort of conversations when we first got engaged and were first dating and all that sort of stuff. Our parents weren't, never really talked about money or anything like that, investing. I mean, I remember growing up, like my parents, they just never talked about it. Like
Yeah.
I can't recall a single argument they ever had over money. I mean, obviously it was all behind closed doors. So I don't know ever growing up if they're having the best financial year of their life or their worst. It just wasn't a topic of conversation. So
Yeah.
uh,
Interesting.
yeah, naturally it just wasn't a topic for me and Kelsey. And so when I found that, the conversation actually just kind of went, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. You got to read this
Yeah.
book. And finally convinced her to read the book. And it opened her eyes up just like it did mine. And so we lucked out that we didn't have those conversations on the front end, but it ended up working out that we have the same philosophy on business and money and all that.
That's great. So walk me through, once you read the book, once you kind of came up with your game plan, where did you go from there?
Started reading more, just consuming more. I mean, when you read books like that, often they'll reference another book, say this book is a good one, you should check that. So I'd write it down as I'm reading through, and then I get those books. And then, I mean, once you start down the rabbit hole and you keep reading these recommended books that each book is referencing, I mean, there's no turning back. I mean, it's just, it opens up the floodgates, and you really can go anywhere from there. And that's kind of what happened. So started reading more, learning, and then looking at investment houses. Just starting. What would it take? What would it take to just going on Zillow or something? What would it take to buy this house? What would we have to do to it? Looking at houses. And we were in Illinois at the time, so fortunately we didn't buy anything up there because we moved to Florida shortly after, and here we stay, and this is where we bought everything. So it worked out that we spent the time in Illinois learning, and now we're here in Florida.
Yeah, and now committed in Florida. So what brought you down to Florida?
Always wanted to be here. When I was a kid, my grandparents had a place in Punta Gorda, which I'm sure you're familiar with, right?
Yes.
So we used to go down and vacation there, Thanksgivings, winters, all that sort of stuff. And so I knew I wanted to be in Florida, not necessarily Tampa specifically, but Florida.
Yeah.
And then Kelsey's aunt and uncle had a place actually not too far from where we live now. And she always used to go down and visit them as a child. And then when we were dating in college, over spring breaks and stuff, her aunt and uncle would fly us down for spring break. We'd hang out here for the week and then, fly back to school. And that just cemented it. We needed to find a way to get down here.
That's awesome. So what helped you get down there, as far as, like, did you find a new job or investment property or what?
We were actually working our corporate job. She actually did the same thing that I was doing, same company and everything. And we caught wind, or I say we, she caught wind that there was a new district being formed down here and they had some openings. So she decided that she was going to tell her manager, say, hey, we want to move to Florida. And the way we kind of approached it was, all right, we know that, we may need to spend a couple more years here, even though we really didn't want to. We know we may need to spend a couple more years here, but we want to start the conversation now. They didn't know we knew about this district, right? So we want to start the conversation now. And lo and behold, oh, there's 2 spots open in Florida. Do you want them? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
So they
awesome.
moved us both down.
That's great. It sounds like also, like, you guys put it out into the universe that you wanted Florida, that you wanted that direction, and then those 2 spots opened up.
Oh, it was a dream. It was an absolute dream. I mean, I could clearly envision palm trees in my head when I was a kid laying in bed up in Michigan. It's freezing cold outside. I mean, I could feel the air and see the palm trees. Absolutely. for sure.
That's awesome. So walk us through now. I mean, now you're a commercial broker. Now you have investment properties. So how did you go from Ecolab and water consulting to commercial real estate? That seems like a big jump.
Yeah, it does. So when I was spending all my nights and weekends and free time and everything doing real estate, right? Attending meetings, networking, talking to owners of property, someone had convinced me to go ahead and get my license, because that way, ideally, again, you can't help everybody that you come across. And so, and same thing is with buying, you just can't make a deal with most everybody you come across for whatever reason, one reason or another. And so I figured, okay, if I can't make a deal, I can always list the property for sale, make some money that way. And then, I enjoyed the idea of doing real estate full-time so much, I decided to jump in and do it full-time. And so I actually started out for a brief hiccup in residential real estate. And, that was a lot different than the investor side and buying real estate, doing that, and then going to working with like first-time home buyers and holding open houses and all that sort of stuff. So I sold some houses. I didn't last too long in residential. I caught myself holding an open house for another broker. This couple came walking in and they're looking all around. They're asking my advice on how to, where to put the couch and what color this is and that is, what they should paint. It's like, oh, I don't know. It's like, lady, what can you do in a blue bathroom that you can't do in a pink bathroom? Just buy it and then paint it, And so,
true.
Yeah, that day I knew that I was gonna move out of residential and go into commercial, which more suits my background actually, because I spent a lot of time working with business owners in commercial properties, office buildings, manufacturing facilities, working with purchasing agents, making dollar and cents decisions and that sort of stuff. So I've kind of leveraged that into working as a commercial broker with investors.
So as far as, I mean, was there any pushback into where you worked as far as going over into commercial, or was that a pretty easy transition?
In terms of my corporate job or my residential?
Yeah, your residential on your brokerage side.
No, because I started out with Keller Williams, and I'm still with KW Commercial, who is the commercial branch of Keller Williams. And in the office I was in, there was no commercial branch. There was no commercial team, no commercial division, and it was just getting started in that particular office. So I got hooked up with the guy who was put in charge by the office leader. He was put in charge of starting the commercial division. So I started working with him and learning. And then not long after, while after actually, I got hooked up with my current senior broker who I'm working with, serving as a mentor. His name is Coach. So he's kind of like a coach.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at now.
So walk us through, what kind of deals are you doing now, and how big are the deals? What type of deals? Lay it on us.
Yeah, they're really all over the place. I'm working some multifamily opportunities. Just sold some development land. Just sold a small animal hospital that's going to be used to what the buyer is going to do is he's going to tear it down and build 5 different office buildings. He's a pediatrician, so he'll be in one. He'll rent out the rest of them.
Yeah.
There's a project called that they're calling, at least it's Tampa City Council. It's the Gateway to the Innovation District, which is at I don't know how many of your listeners are from the Tampa area, but it's at a pretty prominent corner, Bush Boulevard and 275. It's going to be it used to be a Ramada. Now it's just flat dirt. It's been torn down. It's going to be a hotel, multifamily, some office co-working space, restaurant, and some stationary food trucks. So there's those. And then, of course, it seems daily somebody's asking me about multifamily. Down here in the Florida market, as we're seeing a lot of the single family deals dry up, A lot of people are stepping up and moving into duplexes, triplexes, quads, up to 20 units or so. So we're starting to see a transition from the smaller investors trying to work some of these bigger deals because, I'm sure same as Nashville, the housing
Yeah.
market's just crazy. So they're
Yep.
looking elsewhere for deals.
So as far as actually, let me take a step back. So something I did want to touch on was how you and I connected,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty awesome. I've over the years, Instagram for me has been a great way to connect with people. And I tell everybody, like, get yourself out there on Instagram, put it out into the world what you're doing. And then all of a sudden you're going to start making connections. You're going to build your community on Instagram. So you and I connected through Instagram, and I loved it because you do a very good job of taking all the news, all the real estate news in Tampa and greater Tampa area and putting that on your page. So literally I loved following you because I just got like an update every time there's a new project
Yep.
of what was going on in Tampa. So it was very informative for me. And then I think I eventually reached out and I was like, hey, let's connect because
Yeah.
you were adding tremendous value for me.
I appreciate that. And that's the goal. Yeah. I think you had commented on, a handful of, posts and, we had gone back and forth a couple times in the comments, and I think you DM'd me and said, let's just meet up. And then it worked out that you were visiting family in Punta Gorda or something, and we were able to meet up. But there's actually been a decent number of people that I've met in various parts of the industry, whether it's maybe the environmental side, phase one, phase two, or lending, or investor side, such as yourself. There's been a handful of people. And it's funny is I try to provide that value through my Instagram. You'll notice I don't really post sales or much about me really at all, because I really don't want it to be about me. I want it to be somewhere where people can go and just get a quick snapshot what's going on in Tampa, what happened today, and learn. And I've actually had a number of people say, hey, if I'm getting ready to sit down in a meeting with a buyer or an investor or something, I'll scroll through your Instagram, the last 4 or 5 pictures or something, and just get some talking points. And it makes them look more knowledgeable and educated in front of their clients. And hopefully that increases their success as well by appearing more, not just appearing more knowledgeable, but when you read the information and you know what's going on, you can actually speak more knowledgeably about it. And that's what I'm trying to get across on my Instagram.
So what encouraged you to start that?
I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, right.
I think my wife actually, you'll notice a theme. She likes to poke and prod me to do things that, I've never been into social media all that much.
You should keep her around.
Yeah, I think I will for a little while. I think, after kind of looking into it, and then I started looking at some other accounts and kind of what they were doing, because for a while, all through college and everything, you just look on social media, it's just a bunch of pictures of food and, all that sort of stuff. And that doesn't interest me. I mean, I've got a personal Facebook page, but I don't use it really. I use Instagram again for business. And as soon as I realized that I can reach so many people by just posting some pictures and a little bit of knowledge on what's going on, and meet some fantastic people such as yourself and many others, I really just got on board with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's the same for me. It was about 1.5 years ago. It was like, a light bulb switch. I saw somebody speaking about power of social media, and I was like, man, I really have to invest some time and energy into this, and not just make it about me, but make it about my projects, make it about real estate, make it about how I can help my audience and help people that are maybe a few steps behind me and give back to them. And then all of a sudden I'm creating value, and then they want to follow me. And then all of a sudden we have a community and we connect with people like you and me connecting and actually meeting in person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of like the fallacy and the logic on what people think of social media. People think, they think it's stupid because all it is like negative political posts and pictures of food and all this sort of. When you realize that social media is what you create it to be, because you're the one putting out the content, right? And So it is what you create it to be. So I was like, I don't like posting pictures of my food, and I don't like posting, political stuff or whatever. And then you just realize, well, I don't have to. I can post what I think is valuable to others and what others think is valuable.
Yeah.
I don't have to post that stuff. So when you realize social media is what you make of it, it's a tool like anything else, right? It's a tool. Then that opens up a big world out there, really.
Yeah. And I think that's a good metaphor for most anything in life, is like, it is what you make of it. Like in any situation, any deal, any setback, any positive, any negative, like it is what you make of it. And
Absolutely.
same thing with social media. So speaking of which, it is what you make of it. So what as far as, so you have investment properties at this point. How has that helped you with your clients that are getting into investing or have investment properties or looking at multifamily investing?
I can just speak more knowledgeably, right?
Yeah.
I've run numbers myself. I've analyzed deals myself. I know much of what to look for that maybe somebody just getting in brand new isn't going to know what to look for, right? I can sort through a pro forma and say, no, that's not real, or yeah, that looks about right. So I can speak a lot more knowledgeably, talk the lingo, because when you're talking to especially seasoned investors, they'll call BS pretty quick if you don't know what you're talking about. So that's certainly been tremendously valuable. And then on top of that, I think you and I had mentioned or had talked about before, I used to attend a lot of the RIAs and all that, the single family investing and stuff like that. And a lot of those contacts have turned into, okay, these are all single family meetings, but I'm the commercial guy there. So there's been deals that have come out of there, even though I don't attend as regularly as I probably should, to continue to be that commercial guy there. But there's deals that have come out of there that have just been, hey, so-and-so said I need to call you. I got a commercial need, or I've got to sell a property, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of meetups and being like the only one in your niche, I think there's so much value to that. I heard somebody say, they're like, look, I make websites for a living, and I go to all the doctor conferences and all the dentist conferences because I'll be the only website creator at the whole conference. So it's almost like you have a monopoly. We just recently at our monumental meetup, we had a good friend of mine, same thing. He does digital media, digital marketing. He was obviously the only one there, other than, that was not in real estate, was not in multifamily, was not in commercial real estate, or even single family at all. He was just there to support me, but he was the only one there in that niche. And there's people that actually approached him.
Yeah, he filled the need, and he was the only guy there to talk to, right?
Yeah.
About that need, whatever, whenever you go to someplace like that, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for like me to go to different networking events and all that sort of stuff. But if I'm going to be one of 40 commercial brokers there, I don't really want to go, because I don't stand out then. There's no, I won't say no value, but no perceived value at that point in time when there's so many different commercial brokers in the room.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what about as far as you and I have talked a little bit about like your process for reaching out to off-market property owners. Could you kind of walk us through that and kind of your process to building relationships and being able to help broker sales?
Sure. So I'm a cold caller. I love cold calling. Well, actually, I don't think anybody loves cold calling, really. I think if somebody tells you that they absolutely love cold calling and they get up every morning, they can't wait to hit the phones, I think they're kidding themselves. I love the results of cold calling.
Yeah.
I think there's no better way, especially commercial. Residential, you can go door knocking, right? And to that fact, I know people who've done real well in commercial door knocking, but in residential, you can go door knocking. Pretty good chance whoever answers that door owns the place or knows the person that owns the place, right?
Yeah.
Commercial, A lot of times you're going to run into tenants. I don't know the owner. I know the property. And then you got to go through, okay, the property manager. Okay. It's just not worth it from my perceived energy exertion level.
Right.
I think the best way to get directly with an owner and catch them on a bad day is to call them at 9 a.m.
9 in
So
the morning. Okay.
yeah. I call typically every morning from 9 to 12. Rainy days are excellent because when you catch somebody on a rainy day, they're looking for any reason to feel better, right? And if you can provide a solution to whatever's ailing them, rainy days make it really easy to get that foot in the door.
So tell me about, like, do you time block out like every day or a couple days a week?
Every day I've got from 9 to noon blocked out. So I try my hardest. I really intend not to schedule anything during those times. Sometimes fires come up, emergencies happen, whatever. But as long as I've got that blocked off, then I know it's never going to happen where I accidentally book something there. If something's booked there, it's really, really important. But I'll try and make up for it later in the day as well. So if I've got to do something at noon, which means I need to leave at 11, then I'll try and make up an hour later in the day.
Okay.
But yeah,
So
I'm a hardcore scheduler, time blocker. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. It's not happening, and I can't be held accountable for not showing up.
Yeah, let's go into that. So when do you schedule your time? Is it on a weekly basis?
A lot of times I've got recurring things that I always do. And then as things pop up, it's just kind of like a rolling schedule, but typically I like to time block out, if I've got an appointment, I like to set everything for at least a week out if I can. And then on Sundays, I'll just spend, I don't spend a ton of time, but just look through my calendar for the next 7 days. And because, you can schedule something on Monday of this week and then totally forget about it by the time the appointment rolls around on Friday the following week. Right. So just take a little bit of time, look over what I got going on that week and do what I need to do to prepare.
So do you block out something that I've realized over time is that what's helped me is actually blocking out time just for prepping for certain things. Like if I have an important meeting, not only do you block out the meeting, but you block out 2 hours before, the day before or something to make sure you're well prepared for that meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've gone into enough meetings, by just winging it. I've gone into enough of those to know that it's probably not the best approach for me. So yeah, I try and keep, like you said, it maybe an hour or two before an important meeting. There's some meetings, that are just, brief consultations just with maybe a potential new buyer or something like that. A lot of those conversations often go the same. But if I'm going in on a listing appointment or talk to somebody about selling their property, I'm preparing for that for sure.
Yeah. So going back to your cold calling, so where are you getting your lists from?
We use actually a couple of different resources. And then I do a lot of the legwork myself as far as, I'll look up property owners in a given area. You can do that through property records or whatever. Most property records have some sort of like a map function. You just circle that area, whatever area you want to be calling on. And then it'll give you owners. Commercial, they're mostly LLCs. So then I got to go to what we have here is sunbiz.org. Just look up the owners of those LLCs, and then I got to go try and track down their phone numbers. Certainly probably not the most efficient way to do it. I'm sure there's a program out there that's really, really expensive that I could be utilizing. But of the programs that I've used that do spit out phone numbers, I've had a hard time with the accuracy of the phone numbers. So what I'll do is, on a weekend or something, I'll just compile a list that'll be enough to get me through the week. And then I trust the numbers that I come up with.
Okay. Where do you get the numbers from? Is that from Sunbiz or?
It's online. It's a website called Spokeo, Spaeo. You pay for a subscription. I don't remember. It's maybe $10, $15 a month or something like that. You get like, I don't know how many searches per month, but that's pretty accurate. You still run into wrong numbers here and there.
Yeah.
You might get 3 or 4 different numbers for one person. You just got to try them all and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I've actually had it where I got a wrong number, but then I'm looking for Joe Smith, but I think I might have the wrong number. Yeah, you got the wrong number. Okay, well, do you have any commercial real estate needs? Well, yeah, actually, yeah. So I have had somebody say, well,
wow,
now that you mention it, yeah. So wrong numbers aren't always a bad thing.
That's interesting. That's turning a no into a yes.
Exactly. You never know who needs help.
That's awesome. So what typically helps you when you're going in to pitch, somebody that doesn't even have their property listed? How do you typically get them comfortable with listing it with you?
I usually know that before we even meet. Okay, so usually I've had a couple of phone calls with them. And the key is just get the appointment. Just try and get a chance to get it. Because most people, if they're motivated to sell, I mean, some people will say, yes, oh my God, I got to get rid of this property. That's not most everybody, though.
Yeah.
Most people are going to say something along the lines of, I never really thought about it. Or, yeah, I've been tossing around the idea, but not really. Usually those are the signs you get. So when I start hearing that, when I start hearing somebody say, never really thought of it, but now that you mention it, I know there's something there. And then I try to get the appointment because I can't sell anything over the phone. I'm not a good phone salesman. I can get an appointment over the phone, but I can't sell anything over the phone. I know that if I get in front of somebody and I get a chance to meet them and talk to them, learn a little bit about them, ask them questions, and you can feel a genuine sense of who somebody is when you're with them, and I can win you over like that when I'm in front of you, not over the phone. So I just try and get the appointment, and then it may turn out where they're like, it maybe now's just not the right time, but that's somebody that goes in the follow-up. I mean, I'm a pit bull when it comes to follow-up. The gold is in the follow-up. Most people don't have a need right now, but they will someday. So always follow up. And I typically follow up in residential. They might do a little more often, but if somebody's really just not interested, it's once a quarter. I'll follow up every quarter,
You follow up with a call?
Phone call. Yep. Unless, we did meet in person, maybe I'll just stop by. If I know where their office is now, or not their house, I'm not going to go to their house, but I might stop by their office just to say, oh, I was in the neighborhood. But yeah, you got to follow up. I mean, the people who do best in sales are the ones that just aggressively follow up.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you said, you're like, it just comes down to, first off, it's getting them to the point where they're comfortable with meeting in person, because that's really where you shine. And honestly, I think it has to do with the size of the transaction, right? Like you're looking to add massive value, but in order to get them fully comfortable, it really helps to have that face-to-face connection. And also, like you said, being able to truly listen to somebody and understand somebody and understand their model of the world and where they're coming from. That helps you better serve them and whatever their needs are for the property.
Yeah. And you can't do that over the phone as effectively, because if I'm asking you if you want to sell your property and you say no, I need to know if you're on the verge of laughing or on the verge of crying.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really hard to do that over the phone.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what is the grand vision for Chris? What are the next steps?
The next steps, you and I have actually talked about it. I'm growing my investments, getting into, what you're doing with syndication. That's the next step. I've done a lot of work with financial advisors, helping them lease space and helping them out. And just like everybody, you can't help everybody that you meet. And financial advisors are the same way. There's somebody that they want to make a client, but their package or portfolio or mutual funds or whatever just aren't a good fit. But that doesn't change the fact that this person still has capital that they need to invest, and maybe they'd feel more comfortable with real estate. So working with some of these financial advisors to say, hey, if you can't help this person, I've already done a good job helping you. Maybe you could at least send them my way. Maybe I can help them as well.
Yeah, that's
And so,
awesome. And,
yeah,
and
kind of
like,
move in that space.
yeah, like we talked about, I mean, it's powerful to get into and scale, and it's relatively, um, it's easy to really jump into that scale on the multifamily syndication side.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. There's always a need for multifamily housing, whether it's luxury or affordable housing or whatever it is, market rent housing. There's always a need. There's always somebody who needs it. But I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, no matter what you want to get into. I know you're a multifamily guy. I love multifamily. I also love retail. And that kind of raises a lot of people's eyebrows when I tell them I like retail properties. And everyone, their first thought is, well, what about Amazon, right? What about online ordering, all that
Right,
sort of
right.
stuff? Yes, Amazon is a problem for a lot of people, a lot of businesses. And we're seeing it here just as much as everywhere else. You go into the malls and there's,
Yeah.
empty windows all up and down the malls, and empty spaces and vacancies and all that. And you drive up and down the streets, there's retail buildings that are just sitting there with nobody in them. Those are opportunities. Okay. So I think these are just my ramblings, right? But those buildings aren't going anywhere. All right. With the exception, of course, some of them are going to be redeveloped and maybe made into something else. But for the most part, those buildings aren't going anywhere. They're going to need to do something with them, and they're going to more than likely remain retail buildings. I think in the next coming years, owners that are either unable or unwilling to adapt to the changing market, the changing needs of consumers, those are the ones that are going to be changing hands. So I think for a savvy investor out there who has the ability to look and realize that the retail marketplace, it's going to experience based, right? It's going to here at one of the malls here, they're putting in a bowling alley and a movie theater, stuff that Amazon can't deliver to your front door.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the savvy investors that are able to do that and understand how a good tenant mix works in a retail building, I think those are the ones that are going to be really, really successful in the retail market coming up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's that like cross pollination of like a good experience and a good time that Amazon can't provide, and a
Yeah,
lot of these e-retailers can't provide is an actual experience.
absolutely. And even eating out, a lot of people say, well, what about Uber Eats? Well, do you want to eat every single meal from your couch until you
Yeah.
die? No, you still want to go out and get cocktails for happy hour after work. You still want to go out and have a nice celebratory dinner when you get engaged, right?
Yeah.
Those sort of things are Uber can't deliver. Uber Eats can't
Exactly.
deliver. Now, certainly not downplaying the convenience of it, because I certainly like me some Uber Eats from time to time. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's not all doom and gloom.
So, so one more question before we jump into monumental questions.
Sure.
So you have a newborn on the way
Yeah.
here in December. So
Yeah.
what advice would you have for them from what you've learned in your life?
Oh my goodness. There's so much. There's just so much that we all have it. I wish I knew then what I know now, and that's some of the knowledge that I'm excited to impart on them. But I think my wife and I were just talking about it this weekend. Is teach them early about money. Teach them early. Money can't be a taboo topic. They
Yeah.
teach them to save, spend, and give, right? The big three. And, save could be whether it's, a savings account, investing account, whatever. And then giving doesn't have to necessarily be monetarily giving. Maybe you can, buy a backpack for a kid in your class who doesn't have it, right? So just letting them know that money's not a taboo topic. We can talk about it and teach them early. Teach them really, really early to get the good habits in their mind before the rest of the world imparts their bad habits.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really great. And I couldn't agree more. I feel like that's something that, it's like if every kid was rich and reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and having that mindset and having their parents empower them in financial literacy, I feel like that would really change a lot of things in our society.
Yeah. I partially jokingly, but mostly serious, tell my wife that his bedtime story every night is going to be The Richest Man in Babylon, because it's written out, in kind of like a couple of little collections of short stories. So she just rolls her eyes, but you just wait and see. He's going to be hearing Richest Man in Babylon for the first few years of his life.
Exactly. That's awesome. All right. So let's jump into our monumental questions.
All right. Hopefully I got some monumental answers.
Yes. Success. What does success mean to you?
What does success mean to me? Success, to be successful, you can be successful in, your job and whatever, but I'm going to talk, I guess, more about overall your life. What makes you a success in life? Okay. I think that's doing and accomplishing and achieving the things that make you feel fulfilled and confident. Now there's the other side of that where success is like a lever, like a seesaw, right? The other side of that is doing things that allow you to contribute more and elevate the people that you love and the people around you. But I say it's like a lever, like a seesaw, because both need to happen for it to be considered real success, right? So you can't keep grinding and buying more property, making more money at the expense of your family and your friends and loved ones around you. Okay. So when that side of the seesaw goes down, it's no longer a full life success. Right.
Yeah.
Now, conversely, you can't just keep giving to the people around you and, increasing their value of life and the quality of life while you're running yourself into the ground in a miserable job that you just absolutely hate and you're just soul sucking. Right. That's no longer a success either. So both have to be in balance. And that's my long definition of success.
I love it. Do you have any daily habits or morning rituals that lead to a great day?
I work out. I lift weights 6 days a week. It's a great start to my morning. It's something that I can do where I can just pour all my focus into it, not worry about anything else. Nothing else is on my mind. And I like to do it early in the morning so I'm not rushed. I hate feeling rushed in the morning. We all have those mornings where you got up late and now you need to run out the door.
Yeah.
And it's just not a good start to the day. So I like to take a long, slow workout, do my thing, eat my breakfast, come back, and then, I'm ready for the day. So that kind of sets the pace for the day. And I like that.
That's awesome. So in wrapping up, do you have a favorite book or book you're currently reading?
Favorite book or book I'm currently reading? The book I'm currently reading actually is Matt Faircloth, Private Capital.
Oh, nice
book, right? That's a really, really good book. I'm almost done with that one. So I don't think I have a favorite book. There's so many because I'm an avid reader of business and psychology and history and real estate and money and all these sort of things. If I had to pick one other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which we already talked about, there's a book called Choices by Shad Helmstetter. And that is a book that I can recall absolutely changing the way I looked at the world, my mind, and just it really changed a lot of things for me, because basically what that book talks about is, we're a product of our choices. We're where we are because of our choices. Now you can always say, well, that illness, I never intended for that to happen, but you have a choice on how you react and how you move forward. Right. And then it also talks a lot about, it kind of compares our minds to computers, where when you get a brand new computer, you need to program it. You need to put the software and the programs into it that you want in order to do what you need to do with your computer, whatever you're doing. And our minds are the same. Either you program your mind or somebody else will. The rest of the world will program your mind. I mean, you ever have one of those days where you're driving somewhere and then all of a sudden you just kind of snap to and you're there and you don't even remember the drive? How did I even get here?
Oh yeah.
That's just the background programs running your mind. I mean, your brain just shut off, and a lot of people walk around years and years and years of their life like that.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you install the right programs in your mind.
So Choices, I'm gonna have to add that to my list.
Yeah, Choices by Shad Helmstetter. It's a pretty quick read, and I loved it.
All right. So in wrapping up, how can our Monumental listeners reach out to you or follow you or keep up with what's going on with Chris's world?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me on Instagram. I love my gram. Yeah, I'm at the Chris Nowicki, and you can keep up to date with everything going on here in Tampa. You can DM me, reach out to me, find out what I'm up to, and I'd absolutely love to connect with your viewers or your listeners.
Yeah, guys, and honestly, take him up on that. Even if you're in any portion of real estate, he just brings tremendous value on his Instagram page, and really look out for Chris. He's going to be doing some great things, and he already is, and he's already crushing it. So, guys, with that, have a monumental day.